Hi, everybody. Welcome to our, what is this, third issue of Marvel Time?
Yeah, I think so.
So thanks so much for joining us. My name's Benji. We're joined here with Mack.
Hi.
Mack is Laughing Places editorial director for Marvel content. So it makes sense to have him. We're going to talk about a couple comics that came out this week and then go on to some other news. So why don't we get started? So we'll go through we have 3 issues today. We'll all pick up comic of the week and we'll go in, I guess, alphabetical order. So we'll start with Captain America Marvel Snapshot number 1, written by Kurt Busiek and Mark Russell, with art by Ramon Perez. This is my pick of the week. It seems a little odd that this was written before current events, but
Yeah.
you know, what I love about Cap is it's pretty. He makes you feel warm and fuzzy because even though he has challenges and might not even always do the right thing, his heart's always in the right place. And this issue kind of deals with a lot of gray area where it doesn't sacrifice his integrity, but it can show how not everything is what it seems.
Yeah, that's very well put. Actually, I was a little bit surprised how little he was actually in the comic and how much it focused on another character that really that nobody has heard of before, brand new character. Even though the story was based on a story arc from the 70s, which I thought was really cool. Kind of just gave you a different angle on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was actually also my pick of the week. And that's mostly for me because of how grounded it is. Like, it really tells a story of like what it would be like in the real world if these sort of powers existed. And it kind of contradicts what most people think of comics as just, superpowers and capes and stuff like that. I really liked how real it was.
Yeah, I like the comics where it goes on the ground level.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about another issue coming up where it's, big galactic consequences, which is great. In comics you can do that.
Right.
But, I think in many ways, like the way people fell in love with like Phil Coulson,
Mm-hmm.
In the first couple of Marvel films, it's like there are just grunts working and trying to, stay sane while all this crazy is happening. It's 2020 every day in the Marvel universe. And, I think sometimes it's nice to take that, how would a human normal goes to work, struggles through normal stuff, deal with being in the Marvel universe. I enjoy those stories. It's kind of true. Like, it's not uncommon to have those stories these days, but especially as a counterbalance to some of the bigger storytelling that happens, I enjoy it.
I also like that it gave you a point of view of like somebody who kind of got into, he was, like you said, like the grunt, but like on the bad side of things, you can kind of see how someone would get into, for example, AIM, and how they would justify it to themselves.
So next up, we got Empire Avengers number 0, written by written by Al Ewing, and art by Pepe Larraz. These number 0 issues are always like setting up, giving usually some of the history of what's going on to some big event, laying groundwork. It's not meant to be like really moving anything forward. It's usually someone talking, and then explaining a lot of stuff in the middle there, and then teasing the big event at the end.
Right. Yeah, you pretty much just summed up that issue. I pretty much said those exact words in my full review, which is up right now on laughingplace.com. Yeah, it's not something that you're going to jump in if you're a casual fan just looking for a comic to read. This isn't something that's going to stand on its own. It's basically a history lesson mixed with a tease. That's essentially what it comes down to. But that being said, I enjoyed it because I'm very excited about Empire.
Yeah, and what's nice is when you get into these like Empire, if you go into Marvel Unlimited, they did another Marvel of Empire 0 before everything.
Yes.
And there's some teases in a book they released. I want to say it was called Incoming.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you want to get into the event, like these events are usually so big in scale, and you get into it and you're like, what's happening? These 0 issues can really help you figure out, the clip show before you get into the main story, and makes the bigger events seem a lot more comprehensible.
Right. Yeah, because there is so much going on, and even in this issue, there's a lot. But at least it kind of draws it out and explains it for you.
Next, we have Iron Man 2020 #4, written by Dan Slott and Christos Gage, art by Pete Woods. Before I go here, did you happen to watch on Disney Plus The Big Fib?
I have not, no.
So it's a game show where there's like someone's supposed to be an expert on something, and then there's someone who's pretending to be an expert on something. And they had an expert, so it was like, expert on dinosaurs or expert on, I'm trying to think, animation or something like that. Okay. Where they were like, one of these people is an expert in comic books. And then so the two come out, and one is Dan Slott and one is not Dan Slott. And I was like, oh, it's Dan Slott. And so I like watching To Tell the Truth when the famous person,
right.
But it was like, yep, I'm gonna guess it's Dan Slott. Yeah, and Dan Slott was the expert in comic books.
Well, I'm glad they didn't use him as the liar. That would have been awkward.
Right. So Iron Man 2020 #4. Iron Man's history's been pretty crazy. I would say, since like maybe Civil War II. Before that. So, yeah. A lot going on here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a very, very complicated story. And it gets into that sort of like the comic book trope of nobody ever really dies. But did he? I don't know. It's like I said, it's very complicated, kind of hard to jump into. But I do like that it kind of flips the just good versus bad story. I mean, like the main character might be the bad guy. Who are you really supposed to be rooting for here? So it's interesting. It's just very complex and a lot to take in.
Yeah, if you're just getting into comic books because it's the pandemic and you have nothing better to do, not that comics aren't a great thing to do on their own, you might want to wait to jump into Iron Man until they relaunch this September. Mm-hmm. You're getting really into the weeds here. I was reading Iron Man kind of off and on for a while, and I mean, it's not too complicated. You can't pick up on it, but it's there's a lot of Iron Men and and who's related to who stuff. It does a good job explaining it, and Dan Slott's a great writer, and Christos Gage, who's helping him out in this issue, is doing a good job too. So it's a good issue. Just I kind of feel like the Iron Man 2020 momentum ended when the pandemic started, right? And now getting back to it's kind of like I'm already moved on to Empire and the Iron Man relaunch and everything else.
I will say my favorite character in this series so far is Herbie.
Yes,
he's been great.
Yeah, it's great to see Herbie. I mean, Dan Slott's also writing Fantastic Four, so it's neat to see.
Right.
To see sort of like classic Fantastic Four, I was reading it before it kind of went on its little sabbatical, and sometimes I think they forgot that it's supposed to be a family. Like that's what makes Fantastic Four. And so it should be a little like sitcom-y, a little. Danny Tanner comes and explains to Michelle what's going on. Like it's good. Sure. That's good in Fantastic Four. So that's the comics news, but you covered for us what they call the Marvel's Avengers War Table live stream, I guess. Speaking of AIM, and so can you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting things that came from it, one of the most surprising things to me was that this is the first of, I guess, is going to be at least a few of these War Table events that they're going to do, or presentations, I guess I should call them, just kind of giving more information and more different looks at the game before it comes out on September 4th. But yeah, it was about a half hour long. They started off with, they released 2 new trailers today. One of them, which revealed that the big bad of the game will be MODOK, which is awesome. I'm super excited for that. And with AIM in general. They also gave it just a lot of looks at gameplay that we haven't seen before. Everything that we've seen prior to this was all from the A-Day part of the story, which is kind of where everything goes wrong and the Avengers become disassembled. This one was from a solo mission for Thor, which was really cool to see how you can play as Thor when the game comes out. I'm really excited for this game. It looks like a lot of fun.
So what I saw a little bit of it. It was kind of cool to see like proto MODOK.
Yeah.
Like the man who will become MODOK, which
right.
I mean, MODOK is just one of, because they do those character posters of like all the Marvel characters, and then MODOK always sticks out like a sore thumb because he's a big giant floating head. But, so he's always been a fascinating character to me, and AIM too. It's like I mean, I don't, it's hard to say sometimes when AIM begins and Hydra, and I feel like in the MCU, they kind of got pushed off as a plot device in Iron Man 3.
Yep.
But it's nice to see sort of like, I mean, and these super villain organizations are kind of hard to do in like the more realistic MCU. Like,
sure, yeah.
It's not like major like super villain layers like underneath our buildings usually. But yeah, I'm excited. Now, can you talk a little like more about what the gameplay is going to be? Like, what kind of game is it?
Yeah, so it is. It's one of those very complicated. Like, as you play more, you're going to add more skills. You're going to add different gear. So there are like a lot of like complexities to the game. But as far as the gameplay itself goes, it looks like it's going to be a lot of button mashing. Like it's kind of just get in there and melee, swing Mjolnir around, and destroy a whole bunch of AIM robots. But I mean, that's a lot of fun sometimes. So especially when you get to play as characters like Thor and the Hulk. And then I'm very excited that Kamala Khan is a huge part of this game as well. So it definitely looks like it's going to be fun to play. And they also said that they'll be announcing more characters that they'll be adding in the future as well. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, it got me to pre-order it. And I'm not a huge gamer. It's just, I mean, I was as a kid, but then like the games kind of got away from me. And then I can watch a movie in 2 hours. It takes like, you're going to ruin the whole weekend on a video game, right? And sometimes more than that. So, but in a pandemic world, I feel like I have time.
Well, one of the reasons I kind of fell out of video games too was the additional content that you have to pay for after you've already bought the game. And they've already announced that this game, all the additional content will be free, which is awesome. So I'm very excited about that as well. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of it. It's like, I'd rather pay $10 more and just be done with it than like get nickeled and dimed.
Yep.
Another video game that was, I guess, revealed at the PlayStation event a little over a week ago was this sequel to SpiderMan called SpiderMan Miles Morales. So I'm guessing it takes place in the same sort of gamerverse.
Yeah, so it's actually, I think they said it's sort of a continuation of the story. It's less, I guess maybe not a continuation. It's more of it said it's kind of more of a spin-off than it is a sequel. But Miles was a big part of that first game. And so this is just going to follow his story as opposed to following Peter Parker. If you haven't played Marvel's Spider-Man, it's, I mean, one of, if not my favorite video game of all time. It is so much fun. The gameplay is incredible. Or I guess amazing is probably a better word to go with. Maybe spectacular.
We need to have Stanley give us some lessons.
It's a great game. I've been looking forward to a sequel or even just more content on that game itself for a while. But yeah, so this was
a quick game. Like usually these video games, like I mean, I don't know, like Kingdom Hearts, it's like 2 children can be born in the time. But
yeah, no, they did say it's not really. It is a full game on its own, but it's not going to be quite as lengthy as the first one. One of the developers compared it to the Uncharted spin-off, Lost Legacy, which I actually just finished playing as well. But in terms of like the depth or the length of the game, for example, Lost Legacy, I think was 8 chapters compared to the Uncharted games being like 14, 15, 16. So around half the length of the original game.
So that's video games. On the television front, I should say television and beyond, these days. There's a couple things that happened. First, Disney XD premiered the next chapter of Spider-Man Maximum Venom. And this went out. They're doing, I think, 6 1-hour installments. This is the 3rd one, I believe. And this is the one where you finally get to see the Venomized heroes that have been teased forever. But I really like how they're expanding out the storytelling. I'm kind of sad that I don't get Spider-Man cartoons every week, but what I like about the show is it doesn't just take like the Venom's coming, he's going to venomize the Avengers, and Spider-Man's going to fight them. Like there's more nuance to it, in the same way that there was for the the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. So if you're a fan of those on Disney Plus, but want something with modern aesthetic to it, definitely check out Spider-Man on Disney XD, or you can catch it in the Disney Now app, which is probably the easier way to do it. Then they also premiered like an animated series of vignettes, I would say like 4 or 5 minute long, called Marvel Battle World. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just watched. So I reviewed the first 3 episodes last week, and I just watched the most recent 3. So there's 6 episodes out total right now, and it really is a short form series. So like I think with the 6 episodes, it totals I think about 20 minutes. Each one, coming out to about 3 to 4 minutes. It's a lot of fun. It's obviously geared towards a younger audience, but I mean, sometimes those are the best shows out there. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of great characters like Spider-Ham and Frog. So like a lot of very obscure characters that are just more geared towards comedy.
Yeah, I would say it was fun to watch. It's not like Superhero Squad kiddie, like
right.
But anyone could watch it. It's not hard to get through. It's fun and it's nice because you have like Captain Marvel and Iron Man, but you also have Throg and Spider-Ham. You don't normally see. I guess you're seeing Spider-Ham more these days. But.
Right. And then each episode even features, an additional 1 or 2 characters in it as well. So you see a lot.
So next we got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've both seen tonight's episode. If Marvel just put up on their YouTube the opening credits scene from tonight's episode. So I don't know if you've been following, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been going through like different time periods in story. So the opening titles have evolved. So from like a 1930s film noir up to a 70s style, like starring Clark Gregg. So you can check that out. But so tonight they're in the 70s and continuing the sort of battle to make sure Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. still exist. That's been sort of the thread of the season with a great tag at the end. Stay all the way through.
Yeah, this was a really fun episode. I like that they were, I like the 70s aspect of it. That intro was the best one yet. And yeah, the time travel stuff is really starting to get interesting with how things are changing and, who's willing to put up with what at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm kind of sad that this is the final season. Like, it just feels like, because, after the end of Hydra in season 1, or then to S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 1, it kind of felt like it wasn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was just sort of like this family just kind of making up organization. Like, there was no S.H.I.E.L.D. part to it, really, which is fine. But like now it's getting really deep into S.H.I.E.L.D. mythos, and S.H.I.E.L.D. was playing a huge part of it, which is so much fun.
Yeah, and it's tying into the MCU a lot more now than it ever has before, which has been a lot of fun, which honestly was the most frustrating thing for me as a Marvel fan watching it from the beginning. Was I just wanted it to be connected to everything, to the bigger picture, and now we're finally getting that.
So that's what we got. So I think we're going to start to weekly comic book releases, right?
I think we have one more week. I think we don't have anything, and then it's back to weekly. Yeah.
Yeah. So starting in July, so we got the one more week of not having comic books.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds right. So good. We can get back. Empire can start. And we're excited. Okay, anything to share?
One more like prequel issue before Empire starts, and then ready for Empire.
And it's gonna come to you quick.
Yeah.
They're making up for some lost time. So it's funny if you buy a print comic, it has like the wrong release dates, for the next issue in it because they were printed, they just weren't distributed. Right. So also there's a Star Wars Bounty Hunters #3, I believe, came out this week. You can check out Mike's review online too as well. So anything to share before we go?
No, I think I'm all good. Just excited for Empire and everything else going on.
Yeah, it's comics are coming back faster than any other form of media, just because it's comics. Right. So I'm excited to have something to do on Wednesdays at least. You can tell like there's only one Hulu original next month. You can tell that they have run out of content. Yeah. Content is not a thing right now.
And it would be nice to kind of space out those new comics as they come out, but every week, they drop on Wednesday and we read them all right then, and then we have nothing left for the next. Or it's been 2 weeks now. Soon, at least it'll be 1 week. Yeah.
Well, at least we can have some. At least Wednesdays are got something. But
right.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you probably in 2 weeks, and talk to you later.
Bye.